Okay, so in previous session what we saw was we talked about creating a temporary table, and if you recall we inserted records in student as well as STU table which was created by us as a temporary table. We saw after insertion there was one 0 shown and later there was something as 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 depending upon the records entered by you. So let us understand what exactly it is. So let us start with again PSQL client. So let us write /h create table. Now in this particular syntax of create table, forget everything, try to see only this part with OIDs, without OIDs. Okay, this OIDs object identifier. Okay, OIDs object identifiers. So you create table with OIDs or you create tables without OIDs. Now what exactly it is? So if you recall when we saw output of this command, we never mentioned any primary key over here, correct? Now how the system would be understanding this? Like if I want to really make use of, if I want to say that it is going to be unique, so how exactly it is going to do that? So I may have to mention the constant. Now can I add internal thing rather which will be used, internal kind of column rather which would be used automatically as a primary key? Can I do that? So to achieve that goal, let us create a table. So create table, I am firing the same one, I am taking STU. Now this is not a temporary table, so it would be preserved. So you write create table STU, then next thing that you will be writing is column name. So RNO int, okay, press semicolon. Now before semicolon, now we want this to write with OIDs. So if you do not specify this, by default every table is created without OIDs or OIDs, fine. So this we are specifically writing over here. Now how it is going to be used, let us see. So we said with OIDs, so press enter. So table is created. So what is the difference here with earlier session, what was the session that we had earlier with temporary table thing? There was something different with the schema. Now here we have public schemas. That means what, this table until unless I delete or until unless my disk crashes, this table would be available, or until unless I delete this, fine. Okay. Now let me try inserting value into this, insert into STU values. Now let me insert only one value. Now can you see change? Earlier it was showing us as insert 0 1. Now we have a number associated. So that number is called as one number, in this case I got is 16414. Okay, let me try inserting another record. So let me take this as 20. It was 414, now 415. Let me take 30. It is 416. That means what? Each row when inserted is getting an OID. Okay, whole record that you are inserting. Now in this case, in this table I have only one column. What if I have multiple columns? So when you have multiple columns, at that time even every record, every insert that you are inserting into a table would be treated as a record, and that would have an identity with this OID. So what are the OIDs that we have? So if I fire now, select star from STU, now it is not seen, correct? Now let me write some other thing, like let me write this OID comma star. Now I can see that every row, what is the number that we got? For example, for this 20 we got this 415, for 30 we got 416. Are they there? One can see 414, 415, 416 are there. So whenever you create a table, by default this with OIDs option is like executed or used by default, which is an option thing, option 1. Okay. Now if you want to have those object IDs, then you have to make use of with OIDs as an option to create the table. So while like you may wonder like why we want this OID. This OID may be used as a primary key now. Like for example, if I try to insert more records, okay, 40, 50, 60, 70, fine. So if we insert 4, how many records we inserted earlier? One by one we inserted 3. So each one was showing us some number. But now when I insert these 4, like 4 records at a time using a single insert, now you will see the same thing, same output which we earlier saw for student, correct. So insert 0, 4, because when you inserted these 4 records, they each one is having different OIDs. Now we have to prove this. When I said that, I have to prove that okay, they are having different OIDs or OIDs. But as they are different OIDs, but it output or the function written for insert statement internally in the Postgres server shows only this kind of output. Insert, if OID is not there, then it will use 0. Now when I said OID is not there, ultimately what it means, if your table is created without OIDs, in that case only it will have 0. But when you create a table with OID and if you insert one record, then OID would be shown. But if you try to insert more than one record at a time with a table where OIDs is initiated by you by writing with OIDs in a create table query. So when more records are, it will keep this 0 as it is. Now we have to prove whether this 40, 50, 60, 70 also got next records, like next numbers, say 17, 18, 19, 20. So let us try to see. Select OID comma star from STU. Yes, we got it. So what are the numbers? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So these will not lose. Like if I try to see columns of STU, this is not shown. This is not shown to me. Okay, that means what? Whenever you create a table, you note it down. Like this is important. Whenever you create a table, apart from your regular columns that you define in a create table query, there are some internal columns used by the database system to keep information about your system. Now recall, while you took admission, you were not exactly knowing that there would be PRN associated, there would be roll number associated, correct. So they are added when you are part of the system. So like for example, if a child is there, yesterday it was like yesterday born child, so it would be getting some number, that child would be getting some number, birth say according to the case. Okay, when the name is enrolled probably in corporation, it would be getting some number, correct. It would enroll that particular kid would be enrolled for say Aadhaar, then Aadhaar number would be there and so on. So every system will have own identification criteria. So in the similar way, this identification criteria used internally by the database system. Now this OID would be available mostly in ORDBMS or later whatever the developments happened with the databases. Okay, so to identify these things, so object relational database management systems do support this OIDs. So that's why it is having a name even as OID. Now when we created this or when we created a table with OIDs, every record had OID added here, correct. That means what? If I try to talk about identity of this STU, what is this STU or what is that student? According to you, they are tables. But then like can we see OIDs even associated with them? Okay, so let me show you. So this OID is a by default column shown there, fine. So if I, for example, let us try writing this, I am using one particular option, you can see this. Even if you write D plus STU, it will show you this, has OID, yes, okay. Now storage also, now few more columns are added because we use this plus. This plus, what is this plus? So let us try to see. If you use that plus along with a query, like for example this, we use this plus, it says plus for additional data or additional details about the system or whatever the object that you are using, fine. So when we use this for D plus for student, it is not showing us that okay, there is something called as OIDs, correct. But if I write STU, then it is showing me this has OIDs, correct. So this is the internal option used by the system to show you what are the different other parameters used over there. So in next session we will be talking about can I get an OID for my table as well, fine. So the table, the database, every object would be getting identified because the records when we inserted as a record, when we inserted a record in a table, every record got an OID. In the similar way, every table, every function, every database, all other components whatever you create as an object in database system would be getting OIDs.